Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
Hey, good evening. Good to be with you again. Thank you so much for joining us. And this is like being on board the Apollo spacecraft. Major malfunction because we were all set up to go on Facebook, and then what? We couldn't be on Facebook.
Facebook doesn't like us this evening.
Apparently word got out that this guy really should not be allowed to be broadcasting. But we're going to do it anyway. That's right. And I don't know, with the amount of stuff that's that's on Facebook. I mean, we're talking about fun stuff. We got some good stuff to get to tonight. So thank you so much for letting us join you. Hope you were able to find us. And please, one of the things we're going to ask of you is to please hit like, hit subscribe. If you like what we're doing, share your comments with us, please. We like your comments. We'll keep an eye on it. And we got the screen up, right? We put the screen up so everybody can see the comments.
Yeah, it needs some tweaking.
It's a work in progress.
You pay for you get what you pay for.
Well, it's the quality of the content. I mean, let's be honest. It's the quality of the content that you're after, and that's what we provide. So the rest might be, it's not poetry in motion, but I think we're doing pretty good.
We're here to have a good time, not to put on a 5-star production.
Yeah, for that you listen to my daily radio show. That's the 5-star production. Hey, thank you so much though for joining us. We have got we just some lighter stuff to talk about. And I'm not sure, where do you want to start?
Well, you recently watched The Atom Project. That was supposed to be a pretty good video. Needless to say, I got about 20 minutes into it.
And fell asleep.
The first part was good.
And you know what? I really, really liked it. And what did I tell you?
Go watch it.
Go watch it because I think you're really going to like it. I love the humor in it. There's great humor in it. In The Atom Project, there is also a lot of tender moments and that you really kind of didn't expect. And I thought it just worked great. But, and forgive me, I should have written down the stars' names. Ryan
Reynolds.
Yeah. And he's absolutely incredible in it. Funny as you would expect, and just kind of like sarcastic, and yet at the same time, really capable of producing some great feeling. It's well worth your time. I won't go on any more than that, but really well worth your time if you've not seen The Atom Project. But it was, I thought it was fun. It was touching. It was it hit all the things that you kind of hope a great movie will do for you. And it's one. And I was pleasantly surprised because, I saw recently, and we've talked about it, saw the Batman, loved that. Went and saw Spider-Man No Way Home, loved that. I thought that was tremendous. And so I watched this, and I've seen a lot of great movies lately. The luck has got to run out here fairly quickly, but it didn't with The Atom Project. So if you've not seen it, give it a spin.
It's probably a good thing we didn't go see Morbius then. Or Mobius, excuse me.
Everything I read about that, it was trash. And I honestly, I don't know how it did so well in the Rotten Tomatoes scores because they got
to be paying somebody off.
So Jared Leto is striking out again. I mean, Jared Leto, when it comes to like some of these comic book characters the Joker, he was just horrendous, I thought, as the Joker. And then Morbius, I've not seen it. In fairness, I've not seen it, but everything I read was just like, oh, terrible. Don't, people were suing to get their time back.
Thing you'll never get back.
which is why I haven't watched it. I was really saddened this week with the death of Gilbert Gottfried. And I thought he's, we can't share any of his humor because it's really kind of off-color stuff. He got himself in trouble at times with the humor that he did. I happen to like it. I thought he was incredibly funny. But one of the things about Gilbert Gottfried was, like me, he is a fan of Svengoolie. Those who know Svengoolie, who watch Svengoolie on MeTV every Saturday night, and the old movies that he shows, and the comedy bits that he injects it throughout the movie. And Gilbert Gottfried would show up on the show on occasion. He was a Svengoolie fan, and it was just great. But I was really saddened about the loss of Gilbert Gottfried. He'll be missed, I think.
Can't ever forget him as Iago.
He was terrific in that.
The Cave of Wonders.
Huh? Cave of Wonders.
There it is.
Yep, there it is.
Cave of Wonders. I think I'm gonna die.
Yeah, he was great.
I'm so shy. Yeah. So he was absolutely great, and sorry to see that he had passed on. Now, Katie and I have been talking about good and bad villains. What constitutes a good villain versus some of the bad villains, because there have been some really awful villains out there.
And I think we need to lay out some ground rules here. You've got good villains, and when we're talking good villains, these are like the memorable ones.
Yes.
And when we're talking bad, we just mean they're dumpster fire. They just stink.
Because there are a lot of sites online and they say, oh, the worst movie villains. And you go and you look at it like, no. These are the best. These are among the best movie villains. So yes, are they good at being the worst? Yeah. Well, when we're talking about bad, we're talking about those that stink. They're terrible. They're awful. Nobody wants to see them again. They're bad. So, just so we're clear.
So, Greg, what's your number one? What is your creme de la creme? That's the villain. You think villain, that's it.
You know who it is. Yeah, I mean, you know who it is.
Are we going to agree? I think we actually agree on this.
We do. We agree on it. It's got to be Darth Vader.
It is definitely Darth Vader.
Yeah. Because from the moment now I've told this story before, how, because I was in junior high school at the time that Star Wars originally came out in 1977. Okay. I am in junior high school. A friend of mine and me, we see the posters for Star Wars and with that Darth Vader in the background, I was blown away I'm like, what is this? This is awesome. And he goes, oh yeah, that's that new movie coming, Star Wars. I'm like, what? I knew nothing about it. Now remember, this is in the days before internet. Unless you were reading sci-fi magazines of some kind, you'd have no idea. So we went to see it, and I was just blown away from the minute he walked on the screen. I mean, and then you get the voice of James Earl Jones. Incredible. Why do you think it's the best?
Kind of the same thing. It's so well written, the presence, the voice. I mean, you just think evil, you think the Imperial March.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, not only that, you can just say Imperial March and everybody can, boom, they know exactly what that theme is.
Absolutely. So yeah, when he comes out at that beginning, that first scene, on the Rebel cruiser, and then he's choking that guy with, it's just, it was great. And I was hooked even before that, but there were so many openings in that opening scene of Star Wars, so many moments that just, I was gripped in it. He was a big part of it.
And it's not that he's relatable, but you almost feel sorry for him as you watch the series go on, seeing what he's come through. And as his character gets developed a little bit more. James from YouTube is saying Thanos is his, because you need a villain that you can relate to and see where they're coming from, and even if you don't agree with the motives.
Yeah, absolutely. And Thanos is a great villain. I loved him.
Because I can't remember who did the voicing for. And then
I've seen him in a number of other things. He was.
It's Jason Brolin. Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
Josh
Brolin. Yeah, he was incredibly good, I think, in that. So what are some of the other, maybe as we talk about best villains, do you have any other favorites that really kind of leap to your mind?
You and I were kind of talking about this earlier, but there are some things where it comes down to, like, I know we ended up on Batman villains, right?
Right.
So you've got certain adaptations that work well. You've got certain ones that they can end up on both of our lists. They're good and they're bad. Because you can take Joker, right? Everybody knows
Yes,
Joker.
right.
Who's the epitome of Batman
Heath
villains.
Ledger, incredible.
Right.
Jared Leto, not so much.
Train wreck. But I think that comes down to, I mean, it's just, we said it earlier, we were talking about this earlier before we went live, is that I'm pretty sure that Suicide Squad, the only reason they put Jared Leto in there to say, oh, hey, we got a Joker in this movie. And it was just garbage. Because even
It's a bad movie. I tried watching that again. It was like, I missed something. You know what? I blame myself. No, it wasn't me.
And then
it wasn't my fault.
You don't even really need that character in that movie to kind of give the backstory for Harley Quinn.
Yes.
I mean, even as connected as those two are, you don't even need it in that movie, though. Because they don't do enough of
right.
Set up those characters.
Agreed. Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's just
they just assume that you know that. Yeah.
But then on the flip side, yeah, you got Heath Ledger. He was a great Joker. And I'd even go so far to say that Joaquin Phoenix in the standalone Joker movie was good. It was a very different type of Joker, but for what it was written as it was good.
Well, he was incredible in that.
Yeah.
As the Joker. I really hope we see some kind of sequel to that, or that that DC does something with that, because having him only play the Joker once, that would be a waste. He was incredibly good.
Yeah. And if we're talking about villains where I'm just like, meh.
Yeah.
Definitely Nero from Star Trek. I think he's in Star Trek Beyond? Nope, Star Trek.
No, he's in Star Trek. He was in the first Star Trek, the reboot version. The
guy who plays Nemesis. I mean, that whole movie is just trash. So.
Right. Well, there are a lot of. I got to thinking about it, and I'm thinking about great villains. There are a lot of great villains, and I've got some unconventional ones, because I think one of the greatest villains. Now, again, remember, I'm an old guy, so I'm an older guy. The shark in Jaws.
Mm-hmm.
That shark was absolutely incredible, and it was one of those things when people still reacted to the movies. It was kind of a group. It was a shared experience, and when that shark exploded, everybody in the theater cheers. When I originally went to go see Jaws. And the first 10 times after that, it was.
That's still one of those movies that, regardless if it's on, you're watching it.
I am, yeah. But as you start thinking about monsters like that, another great one was Alien. Again, that which is terrific. But Robert Englund is the guy who played Freddy Krueger. I thought he was just, again, another one of those kind of villains and characters that you just don't forget. And Robert Englund was one that would keep you awake at night on some of those films originally. So some great stuff. And then you think of, I think of Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber in Die Hard. He was great. And there's so many great ones. When I think of the worst ones, I think of like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. He was,
That was the one in the very last one, wasn't it? Was that in
yeah,
the Superman movies?
it's the Superman movies. Yeah,
Yeah.
he played Lex Luthor. So I didn't, I like Jesse Eisenberg and nothing against him. I just didn't like that character. It didn't work for me.
And I wasn't keen on what they did with Lex Luthor in, what was it, Batman v Superman?
Yes.
It just, because Lex Luthor's just, I mean, he's like the Superman villain, and it was just kind of,
Yeah.
he was an afterthought.
Yeah, it didn't work for me. And somebody else I like is Topher Grace. I like Topher Grace a lot. I think he's funny. He was terrible as Venom in, I think it was Spider-Man 3.
Yes.
The original set of Spider-Man movies.
Yep.
Venom, it was awful. It was terrible. I just absolutely hated it. Electro and Amazing Spider-Man 2. Who cares? Nobody cares. Did you ever see that Green Lantern film?
The one that Ryan Reynolds did?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's bad. And
Yes.
the guy, Dr. Hector Hammond is in that as the bad guy.
There was a bad guy in it?
Yeah. That movie is just bad all the way through. So anyway, those are kind of at least for me, some of the best and the worst.
James is saying Arnold is Mr. Freeze and Batman and Robin.
Yeah, bad. I would agree with that. Bad. Batman and Robin. In fact, I wrote down Bane from Batman and Robin because, yeah, that movie, again, just bad all the way through it.
And then you flip it, and then Bane in Dark Knight Rises, great.
Absolutely incredible. I thought he was terrific.
Yep. But I mean, that
It was Tom Hardy, wasn't it, who played it?
I believe
I
so.
think, yeah.
I think if you just look at like Batman as a franchise, those movies have been redone so many times, and there's different iterations of
Right.
different characters and different villains. Because I was like, who's the best Batman? Who's the best Joker? Who's the best? It really gives you an option to look at, those different iterations and how different ones are written, different casting. Really can change or whether it's a good or bad villain or how they're portrayed on
Yeah,
screen.
absolutely. And as I said, a lot of times you can't blame these actors because they didn't write the script. They are just like Topher Grace, who I love. I absolutely love Topher Grace. I think he's made so many great, but his Venom, I mean, that was awful. Terrible.
I will say I got to add one more from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Grand Moff Tarkin.
You did not like or did like?
Loved him.
How come?
Just his on-screen presence.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it was great.
I love Peter Cushing anyways. I'm a big, I love the old Hammer horror films. So like Christopher Lee as Dracula, he was a great, in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yep. Sauron.
Yeah. But he played a great Dracula, Christopher Lee.
Yep.
And then Peter Cushing was Van Helsing. Just great stuff. That's the kind of stuff I love watching like on a Saturday night.
You and your Svengoolie.
Yeah.
But then there's also different, and I don't know if we were going to get into this in our next segment here, but it's, you talk about how they're brought up. I mean, you've got the opportunity for some characters like, let's take a villain like General Grievous.
Yes.
You don't watch Clone Wars. He's a great villain in that. But if you just watch
Episode 2.
Clone Wars, yeah.
Yes.
The movie Clone Wars.
Yeah. It's terrible. He's terrible in that movie. But I agree with you. In the Clone Wars, the series, the animated series, they do a lot with that character, and I think it's incredibly well done.
And it's the same with Count Dooku. Again, Christopher Lee makes that one.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah.
Because he's just a terrific actor. I think. Well, he's done some bad stuff too. He was in Space 1999, which is not all that good anyway. He played a character on there, and I'm like, really? They got Christopher Lee to do this? Oh, please. What an insult.
And see, I'm not a huge horror person. I mean, I'm not really huge into like horror films.
Right.
But I know and a lot of people disagree with me on this one because they're not huge M. Night Shyamalan.
Okay.
But the way he does his villains or his evil or his antagonist in those movies, it's weird, but for some reason it works and I like it. Because he shows these odd angles and it's never exactly what you think it is, and it's horror, but I don't know. I like what he does to me, but he's got such a formula that you almost know what's coming the next time you watch those movies. I don't know.
And I've not seen them. I certainly know of them. Signs is one of
Yep.
them, I think. So I certainly know of them, but I've not seen them.
Go watch The Village is probably the best example of it that I can think of. And it's a little bit older, but it's a good movie.
Yeah, and you know what? Older movies like that doesn't bother me
Mhm.
because there's some really great stuff that's been made in the past. And I think, as we talk about some of these things, especially like what makes good horror, what's scary, what makes a great villain, what makes great characters, those are kind of timeless ideas.
Yes. It's creating that environment and that just that whole ambiance around what that villain is too. It's how is it shot? What's the music?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, versus what we do here every week.
Yes. Yes.
I'm joking.
Like I said, your production staff is underpaid and
Yes, you are. Seriously.
they're
underpaid.
indentured servants, and you can only YouTube and learn so much.
Yeah.
What are some of the characters that you just saw them on screen, you were looking forward to them as a villain, and they just completely missed the mark?
I'm not sure. I think, well, Jared Leto would be a great example as the Joker. I mean, how do you, and even when we saw the Batman,
Yes.
and then we saw the deleted scene of the Joker, and you watch that, and again, it's like, okay, I see why that's deleted. I wouldn't have put that in the movie. That movie was long anyway.
I really
And
hope
Jimmy told me that. Jimmy and I had a conversation. Jimmy's been leaving comments tonight. He and I were talking about it the other day. He's like, you could have lopped off easily the last half hour and ended it there. And then it just kind of went on and on, didn't know enough to stop.
yeah. Oh, but that's what Tyler was saying too the night he was here and you guys were
Yes.
doing your movie review on the Batman. And I know for one, you go to that movie and the other person in that movie that kind of just missed the mark for me as far as the Riddler goes,
Yes.
right up all until they do the final reveal that he's just this whiny little kid who doesn't get what he wants on Twitch or some kind of streaming service.
Right. Him and his 150 followers.
Hey, he's got 150. I mean, we can't really balk at that.
No.
Hey, remember to like and subscribe.
Yeah. Well, we're not evil geniuses either.
No.
But I agree with you. I'm like, suddenly then he's like, hey, everybody. Yeah. Thanks for your blah, blah. And I'm like, what the hell is this?
And I think the flip side of that is had they taken more time to develop that character
Yeah.
and show how he went from that to where he ended up at, that might have worked. But the problem is he only got so much time in a movie,
Right.
and they used it to work more around Batman and Bruce Wayne. So obviously, I mean, main character. But I mean, if they were going to do like more of an origin story with him and they'd give him time to develop that and show how he kind of fell into that instead of just like, oh, hey, here's evil guy. And then, oh, hey, he started out, 5 seconds later, he's this whiny little
Yeah.
guy on the internet.
That didn't work for me either. I
was
totally
a real
agree
letdown.
with you. It was. Because he was terrific. And it was a different take on the character. That was one of the things I appreciated. It's tough when you are revisiting these classic characters, like especially Batman, to revisit that and come up with new and different ways to do things that we probably have all seen before and characters that we've all seen before.
Which is, I think, one reason why we've always said that we hope that he doesn't I'm a big. I would hope that if they take that into excuse me, the second movie, that they do it with Hush.
I agree. That would be a great movie.
Yep.
Which is probably why they won't do it.
What else on villains there, Greg?
Oh, that's I think that's all that I had. Oh, we were talking about Lex Luthor, talking about Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
And then I think about Gene Hackman when he played Lex Luthor in the old Superman movie
I thought he was good.
He was terrific. And he was I'm talking about in the first Superman, not like in Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Yeah, The Quest for a better movie. But in Superman, where he is, oh yeah, by the way, I'm gonna light up the San Andreas Fault. I'm gonna drop all of these people and off into the ocean. And he didn't care. He was he was just completely morally bankrupt and was terrific. I just thought he was great. And Jesse Eisenberg missed that with his Lex Luthor.
But then you can also look at villains from, say, like the more campier stuff like Batman, 66 Batman. And if they didn't have some like over the top ridiculousness going on, or they monologued for an hour and a half so Batman could escape, then it just didn't work.
Yeah, there were and we'll talk about this a little bit because we were talking we've got a new bit that we're gonna do this week, new to Geek.
Yes, new to Geek this week.
Yeah. As we get into and we'll talk about some of the Batman villains. Yeah. But I'll let you set that up.
Oh boy. All right. This is what happens when you let me do stuff. So, for those of you who don't know, Greg tends to be somebody who's heavily involved with a lot of different pop culture. I mean, you ask the guy something, he's like, "Oh yeah, that's this, and that, and this." And on the flip side, I dabble, but I'm not.
You're a normal person.
I wouldn't say normal,
I am not.
I mean, the extent of my knowledge of a lot of things is limited pretty much to whatever's on movie or TV shows. I mean,
Sure.
I don't get into the comics and, graphic novels and stuff of it. So for those who are similar to me, we're going to start a new segment here. It's called New to Geek This Week. Point of this segment is hopefully by the time we're done, you know a little bit more about a given pop culture or geek topic. I don't know how else you would call that.
Right.
And you can actually maybe carry on a conversation. And since we're doing...
Yeah, that's right. You could be a geek too.
Exactly. You too can geek like Greg.
Yes.
And since we're talking about
Get
villains...
your geek on, people.
There you go. Geek pride. Since we're talking about villains this week, probably one of the best characters that has one of the widest spread and some of the most well-known villains has to be Batman.
Absolutely.
So, Greg, if I needed to know more about Batman's Rogues Gallery, what do I need to know?
He's got 4 core villains. He's got dozens of villains, but he's got 4 core villains. These are the 4 that you see cropping up in a lot of these, Batman films. So, the Joker, we don't know who he is. We know he started as a character called the Red Hood. He wore a red hood to protect him from chemical fumes, and he was attempting to rob the Monarch Playing Company. And he swam out through chemical waste without realizing it. The Red Hood protected him from the fumes, but when he took off the hood, it had turned his skin white, his hair green, and his lips, bright red, and turned him into, at that point, the maniacal Joker. So you got the Joker, who began again as the Red Hood. Of course, the Penguin, who is his real name is Oswald Cobblepot.
Just saying his name's got to be fun.
Yeah. And I would say one of the worst portrayals, by the way, of Oswald Cobblepot was
Danny
with
DeVito.
Danny DeVito. Yeah, Batman Returns. Yuck.
I'm not even that big of a geek, and I know that much.
And of course, Cobblepot is known, or at least was originally, not so much in the Batman, but known for his use of umbrellas. That's been his shtick historically. Then you've got the Riddler. He was originally Edward Nigma. In other words, Enigma, a riddle, mystery. So Edward Nigma. Later, his name got changed. About 1989, I think his name got changed to Eddie Nashton, Edward Nashton, and that's what we saw in the Batman was Edward Nashton, who was the Riddler. And then, of course, the fourth is Catwoman, Selena Kyle, who has been the character throughout. She's had different costumes and so on, but Catwoman is. So those are the four main Batman villains. And then from there, you start diving off into a lot of sub-villains.
So now here's what I'm surprised about. I honestly thought Scarecrow was one of the main characters.
Yeah, I would. He would be one of the major rogues gallery.
Yeah.
If you were, but there's a lot of them. Mr. Freeze is another one.
Yeah. But obviously those four get more attention than anybody else.
Right. Those four kind of, and you even see that back in the 66 Batman movie, where you have those four.
Yep.
Riddler, Joker, Catwoman, Penguin. They're the four that kind of are the core of Batman's villains.
So if I'm looking at Batman's rogues gallery, who are the minor but the memorable?
The minor but the memorable. I think one of them would have to be Hush.
Yep.
Now, for those who are newer Batman fans, they would know that Hush is Thomas Elliot. He is a surgeon. He's also a genius. And originally, he had been made famous in the Gotham newspapers with the identity, he was known as the identity thief originally. And Jimmy and I talked about this. My friend Jimmy and I were talking about it. He's quite a bit younger than I am. And he's pretty plugged into Hush and Thomas Elliot, knew he was, so on. For me, as kind of an older school guy and more keyed into the 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe even into the early 90s, Hush isn't a character I just was very familiar with, but he is a big one. Harley Quinn, of course, is a big one. And one of the things I love about Harley Quinn is Harley Quinn was a creation for Batman the Animated Series. And based on that, she has become a regular part in the Batman films, in the Batman comic books, but that's where she originated, was Batman the Animated Series. Also, Mr. Freeze, he was originally known as Mr. Zero. The Ice Crimes of Mr. Zero was the first comic that he appeared in. And later he became Mr. Freeze. And really there was not a lot done with his origin. Again, until you look at Batman the Animated Series, they did an incredible job with, it was Dr. Victor Freeze, and that's like fries, looks like fries rather than freeze, but Dr. Victor Freeze, voiced by Michael and Sarah, who was absolutely incredible.
There was a lot of good people who did great voicing in the series.
And he, as in that series, he was absolutely incredible. So those are some of the, at least I think, more notable villains out there.
James wants to add Clayface, Firefly, Man-Bat,
Yep.
Killer Croc, and
Yep.
Two-Face.
And those are among my favorites. Two-Face is, I think, an incredible character, especially if you read some of the 70s comic books. when they started revisiting that character for the first time in a number of years. He was dormant in the comics for at that time, about 20, 25 years, and they brought him back in the 70s. And Neil Adams just did some incredible artwork and stuff with Two-Face. That's a great character.
So now if I want to sound smart, one of the things that always comes up is canon versus non-canon. So what villains are technically canon and which ones are not?
Well, I don't know.
Or who gets to set who makes something canon and not? Whatever WB or whatever DC feels like that week?
I think the powers that be just kind of make that decision more than fandom. Because there were a number of characters that were created for the Batman TV series that were never in the comics, at least at that time. They had never appeared in the comic books. They were created for the Batman TV series. King Tut would be a great example.
Mm-hmm.
Victor Buono, who played King Tut, was just absolutely hilarious. Also, Egghead, Vincent Price. You had Shame, the Minstrel, the Archer, Louis the Lilac, and I could go on. So those characters had all been created for the Batman TV show.
And like you were saying earlier with Harley Quinn, I mean, that was one that was, typically the comic books, if I'm right or wrong here, tell me, typically the comic books set the canon.
Right.
Because
that's the source material. Right. And then what you've seen, especially with the movies, and that would be the same way with television.
Right.
As I talked about the characters on the Batman TV series, they start creating, okay, this is the source material. Now we're creating our own stuff to add to it. And hopefully they improve it, make it better.
And like in the case of Harley Quinn, fans latched onto it. So she then became.
She's a great character.
Jump back into the comic
people
books.
love it. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Here's the tough one. So if I'm trying to baffle somebody with my brilliance, what do I need to know about Batman's Rogues Gallery? Be able to carry on a conversation and convince them I actually know what I'm talking
about. Just not a lot.
So like I'm having a conversation with you. Yeah, sure. Absolutely, Greg. You're right. 100%.
I'm just giving you everything you need.
Gotcha. So I need to know the big four.
Really? Because that's, if you know those, at least it's funny, when I was starting as a radio talk show host, one of the things I learned, somebody had told me, is as a radio talk show host, you need to know a little about a lot of things.
Yep.
And that's really true. And it's kind of the same way here. If you know who the major four villains are, you're in pretty good shape. And then if you can add some of these others, like Jimmy had put in some really great one, Killer Croc would be, again, and he's, again, a more recent character. Ra's al Ghul is another more recent Batman character. If you know stuff like that, you'll be fine.
So if I'm trying to go learn more about Batman's Rogues Gallery, what should I watch? What should I read?
Go to, that's a great question. I have it written down here. Batman.fandom.com. So it's batman.fandom.com. And you can find all kinds of stuff. And I will say, like, there are some minor villains that I really like. Deadshot is one of them. Deadshot is an incredibly good villain in the comic books, especially if you read that character. It's terrific. Professor Hugo Strange. He's been also in like some of the Arkham video games. He's a real popular character. One I personally liked was the ventriloquist in Scarface. And that's Arnold Wesker, who is the ventriloquist. And then he carries, Scarface. And for those who like the animated series, The Batman, a number of years ago, that was a great character on The Batman.
I enjoyed watching that when I came home from school all the time. Yep. It was on when I got home from school.
From school. Oh.
Yes, I can remember coming home from school and we didn't have cables, so I watched that. Because
And Clock
Gargoyles
King-
was on right after.
Clock King's another one. Temple Fugate. You know,
Yep.
so they're, again, those are minor but memorable characters, I think. Villains.
Any animated series or any animated, what do they call them? WB animated ones that I should maybe check out?
Well, I just mentioned Temple Fugate, the Clock King. They did a nice job with him on Batman the Animated Series
Gotcha.
and how he becomes the Clock King.
Gotcha. Because I know I've watched a few of them that HBO Max has, and they're pretty good. The Hush one is great. Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah.
I love those two.
And I love that movie. I think that movie
Yeah.
is one of the best pieces of Batman cinema out there. Really well done.
So now I know I've watched, it's been a long time, but like The Killing Joke, like I've seen the animated The
Yes.
Killing Joke. Good representation of it, bad representation of it.
I don't like it. That's me. They tacked on, and I think in part they were trying to extend the time. They tacked on a Batgirl kind of bookends on it, and that for me did not work. That's not part of the actual. By the way, I have a first printing of The Killing Joke, sealed, never to be touched by human hands again. So, that is adding all that additional I didn't really care for, but again, I love Kevin Conroy as the voice of Batman. He's definitive, and so is Mark Hamill as the Joker. Great stuff.
You and Jimmy are just in lockstep.
There you go, Jimmy.
So there you go. I mean, now you know who's in Batman's Rogues Gallery. You know that I've learned anything, and yes, I have been paying attention.
Oh yeah, she's been paying attention, all right. She's heard me ad nauseum.
How many years now?
Right.
Pretty much all you got to know is Joker, Catwoman. Oh gosh, now I got to try and remember here. Don't tell me Joker, Catwoman. See, I failed already.
Riddler,
and I guess I need to go back and rewind
the
it.
Penguin.
The Penguin. There we go. Maybe I should just look around the room.
Right. Yeah.
I got a lot of buttons I got to push while we're doing this.
Right.
Well, hopefully you've learned a little bit of something about Batman's Rogues Gallery. You're interested in this. I think next week we're going to try and do Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
Yes.
I'm a big Doctor Who fan. I just like science fiction and in all of its forms. And Doctor Who is terrific.
And if
There's a lot there to watch.
There was just an article I think we had read this week that Doctor Who, they're getting a new doctor coming up here.
Yeah. Because right now the character is being played. It was for the first time.
Yep.
It was a woman who was playing the doctor, and so yeah, her time is coming to an end. That's one of the wonderful things I like about Doctor Who is you have a new actor come in, and it brings a whole new freshness to the part. Suddenly, there are things that change about the character, quirkiness. I just love it. It really injects a lot of fresh material into Doctor Who over the years.
The little bit of Doctor Who I have watched, you know who I'd like to see as a doctor?
Who?
Benedict Cumberbatch. Cucumberpatch. I never say his name right.
Yeah, he'd be good.
He's got too much other crap going on.
Right.
All right. So we got to do our rapid fire response for the evening.
Oh.
Along with, showing off your Cave of Wonders. But if you could be any villain, who would it be and why?
Oh. So are you saying any villain of any movie, any?
Sure.
Oh, honestly, I don't know. I've always had an affinity for the penguin, but
Just like fish.
yeah. And I like the quack a lot. I don't know. What about you? Probably the penguin.
I'm gonna go with Darth Vader. And here's why. You know, I need to let the dog out. I can just like force let the dog out. I need to like grab something. Because you always leave that one thing in the kitchen or something. I can just like hear.
Yeah. When he barks, you can just, I find your barking disturbing.
Yeah. No, I just get the ice tray out and that shuts them up.
Yeah. That does freaks our dog out. Who knows why?
I mean, just Darth Vader. I mean, you can just be all sully and morose all the time, and
Right.
got the mask on, and nobody can see you.
He really is a great villain.
Good hair day, bad hair day, doesn't matter. You just got
That
your
works
helmet.
for me.
I mean, come on.
Shave.
There you go. Come out looking like a hermit after you take your.
Yeah.
All right.
The mask comes off, and people are like, "What? We were scared of this."
Oh. Give me just a second here, and I'll get your.
The Cave of Wonders.
We're gonna do the Cave of Wonders. Oh, that's fine. I picked something along the lines of for this week of what we were talking about. Made kind of sense, since I think especially one of the greatest Batman villains, certainly in the last few years, has been Hush. And so this was a figure that Mattel did, and it was from their multiverse line, and it's from Arkham Asylum. So I've got one from the Arkham Origins, so it's got Joker from Arkham Origins, but this is the Hush figure from the DC Comics multiverse. And these are fairly small, but I love the way that they're packaged.
Yep.
You know, when it comes to toys, I have got toys where I love getting them out of the box because you can't really see them when they're in the box. With some toys, you really can't see them. These are so well done, especially, can you show the front, sweetheart?
Oh, yep.
Because on the front, you get that photo on the side, the name of the character across, and then on the back, as you were showing, on the back side, it gives you a brief, here's who the character is, the name of the character, so on. Pretty cool. So this is, since we were talking about Hush, there he is from the DC Comics multiverse line. And that's the Cave of Wonders this week.
That is the Cave of Wonders.
The Cave of Wonders.
Cave of Wonders?
Just because I got it programmed, I got to use it. Did you have any ongoing Batman news? I think you said you had a few. I know
there was a little bit.
the Batman's now available on HBO Max. I saw that the other day.
Yeah. And in fact, the Batman became the 5th movie since 2019 to reach 750 million. So people are going back to the movies again. They're going back to the movie theaters. The pandemic is kind of, and I think we have seen that a little bit with it didn't last very long. Judge struck down the mask mandate for air travel, and now it's been reinstated already?
No, I believe they're appealing it.
They're appealing it. So we'll see. But the Batman became the 5th movie since 2019 to reach $750 million. I don't think that's really surprising, especially to those who have seen the movie.
It's a good movie.
You and I went and saw it twice in 2 days.
Yes.
We don't do that very often.
No.
Pretty rarely. So, and then the Batman is now streaming. For those who have not seen the Batman, it's available on HBO Max now. Started this week. So if you want to see the Batman, it's available on HBO Max. And then I ran across this story at Gizmodo, and they're talking about things that will be happening in the DC universe. And they have got a Penguin series that they're all set to move forward on that will also be on HBO Max. And I think that's fairly exciting. I think that was a great character in the Batman. Incredibly well done. So I look forward to seeing more of that. So not much for news this week. Honestly, I've been lazy. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Well, coming up, you got to remember the new Doctor Strange is coming out May 6th. So that's in just a few weeks. I know we'll probably.
Are you excited about that?
Yes. Doctor Strange is, from the new MCU movies, Doctor Strange is by far my favorite. I just love the way it's done. Again, I love Benedict Cumberbatch.
Well, and I was loving everything I was seeing about it, and then I started seeing, oh, they're cutting the runtime. They dramatically reduced the runtime, and I went, that could be good or bad.
Because weren't they? I think we had it in our rundown. This might have been a month or so ago. There was news of them doing a ton of reshoots too.
Yes, and that's never good. When you're doing reshoots, that's
considering
bad
how
sign.
Close it was to the release as well.
Exactly. So it's because I've seen that happen with other films, and and then you go and see it. It's like, oh boy, you should have reshot the whole damn thing.
But I gotta say, like, some of those offshoot ones. I mean, Disney has an offshoot series for just about everybody anymore, and it's all about maximizing their profits, obviously. But I will say, we've been watching that Moon Knight, and that's been actually quite good.
Yes.
Very different.
And what do you like? We haven't not talked about that.
No, we
yet.
haven't. We haven't.
Is Moon Knight, and we probably should give that some attention, I think, next week.
Yeah. The one thing I like about it is it's compared to what the rest of the MCU is, it kind of falls to me like it gives me more of a feeling like Thor. And the reason being is it takes a very specific set of mythology.
Yes.
And then it's tying a whole story around that. Whereas, like, obviously Thor, they're using Nordic mythology. Well, here they're obviously using Egyptian mythology.
Right.
And there's a whole thing around it. And to me, I think that's really great because obviously I like mythology and stuff like that too. So, I mean, I have a breadth of knowledge already existing there. So it's kind of interesting to see what they do. So,
yeah, I have enjoyed it. And I was a little bit confused this past week because I wasn't sure where they were going. I think they need to start plowing ahead a little faster with unveiling some of the story.
Yeah.
Because it's moving a little bit slowly for me at this point. So I'm hoping it picks up and they start revealing more as we go forward.
Well, and especially because typically those series only have about a 6 to 8 episode run, and they're already released, 3?
3. Because
it's on Wednesday nights. So, yeah, we're more than halfway probably through this season, and there's not much. I mean, you just get the one guy's got basically three people talking in his head at any one time, and
and those of us who have that know what a hassle it could be.
Yeah, I think it deserves a full review. I think it's good. I mean, compared to some of the other ones
as well. I would say there is more that I like about it than things that I don't like.
Yeah, like if you would watch, say, like some of those other series specific ones they've done, like WandaVision, you would hate WandaVision compared to WandaVision.
Well, the thing with this is I do not know the Moon Knight character.
Right.
I know of Moon Knight. I have seen the comics before, but I've never read the comics. Mm-hmm. So I don't know the story. I know some people are, it would be like, the Batman for me.
Right.
I'm pretty plugged into the characters. I know what's going on. So if they go way off to the,
You're shut off.
way off right, it doesn't work for me.
Right.
With Moon Knight, that's not the case, at least for me.
Right.
And we even talked about that with Halo to some degree.
Yes.
Because
Yep.
you stopped watching Halo.
I
didn't
watched
you?
2 episodes and I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah. And I watched one. And I never felt compelled that they were telling any story that I cared to hear more of.
And there's continually a YouTube channel I subscribe to where they're trying to resurrect, oh, there's an Easter egg in this one. And oh, I think it's really great. And it's a dumpster fire. I started replaying the game. And then on top of it, I had started just listening to some of the audiobooks. And you're just, no.
Yeah.
But there are very few like specific categories of, stuff like that where I'm really keyed in and I have knowledge of, unlike you, who you name it, you've got a comic for it or a toy for it.
Well, and I don't know about that, but I mean, like I say, Moon Knight, it's
Right.
just not a character I'm familiar with other than I know who he is, but I know nothing about him. I don't
Right.
know anything about his origin or why he does what he does. So this has all been new to me.
But yeah, I think it's a good series so far. I mean, there's some of those series that they do on Disney Plus, they're hit and miss.
Yes.
The Hawkeye one was, man, I kind of get where they were going with it, but it really, the handoff wasn't there. And because they're
I'll
trying to
tell
set
you,
up.
Yeah. And like Picard on Paramount Plus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Paramount Plus is kind of disastrous for trying to. And again, I get where companies go because they want to maximize the most they can out of any franchise, but sometimes you just got to leave well enough alone.
Agreed.
It's just like a recipe where, a little's good, but a lot is not better.
Good way to put it. Yeah, I've not enjoyed Picard.
No. And you're more.
And I didn't finish this season. I'm like, ugh. And then when I hear the entire cast of The Next Generation is coming back, for the next season, I'm okay, maybe that might bring me back.
Now, if you want to,
they better go to town.
now, if you want to talk missed opportunity for a villain or an antagonist, let's talk about Q.
Yes.
Great antagonist in the Star Trek series. From what I've heard from you, they just completely dropped the ball with Picard on how they could have utilized him.
And then he shows up for really kind of like a cameo in each episode that he's in. That at least that's what I've seen.
Yeah.
And I thought, you get this beautiful character, and John Delancey is just incredible as Q. So you get this beautiful character with this really rich history between him and Picard, and they just have not developed it.
Jimmy's a little disappointed we didn't talk about Khan. Man, I don't have my Khan thing queued
Well,
up
and
yet.
you mentioned that.
We did bring up Khan earlier, but we were trying to keep it a little broader. But yes, Khan is a great villain. I mean, I'm not a big. I like Star Trek, and I probably delve a little more into Star Trek than some of the other ones. But yeah, Khan is great.
Absolutely agree.
And it's really interesting when you start reading some of the background about Ricardo Montalban.
Montalban.
I never say that
Ricardo
guy's name.
Montalban. Yep.
Yeah, he's got an interesting background too.
Incredibly gifted actor.
Absolutely.
And he and Nicholas Meyer, who directed Star Trek II, had a great relationship. And Meyer said, they would have conversations about the character and a vision of the character, and Ricardo Montalban would immediately pick up on what Nicholas Meyer was sharing with him, and the two shared a vision, whereas he and William Shatner never shared any kind of a vision at all. So he was great as Khan.
And it's funny because I think it's Seeds of Man is the original series.
Space Seed.
Space Seed, that's it.
Yep.
Is where that original character is spawned off of, and there's got to be 20 some years difference
Yes.
You can't recognize him at all. I mean, short of just when you hear him talk,
Right.
you can't recognize that that's Ricardo Montalban in either. I mean, it just doesn't look like him anymore.
No, because at the time he's young, his hair is black, and he's, but boy, he was as built back at the time that he did Spacey, that he did the original series. I mean, he's incredibly muscular, and it's all him. That's not, he works out, works hard.
There's no Photoshop.
And it really, well, it worked to his advantage, I think, in Wrath of Khan.
But yeah, he was a good villain.
Agreed. Jimmy, you're right. And you're not right that often. So
but
that's all we've got for you this week. I want to thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel.
And remember,
yes.
just remember to like and like these
Why didn't
videos.
You add that before you tell me.
Because you always take care of it.
Please hit like, subscribe. It really makes a difference, and we would appreciate it. We're doing this to have fun. We hope you've had fun as well. Thank you so much for letting us join you. But please do give us a thumbs up. And if you didn't like it, give us a thumbs down if you feel so inclined. But please react, respond, comment, and then thanks for the comments. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.